Imagine the deafening roar of automatic weapons echoing through the concrete canyons of downtown Los Angeles. It is a sunny afternoon, shattered by armor-piercing rounds tearing through police cruisers like wet paper. This is not a war zone in some distant land, but the very heart of an American metropolis. Dozens of officers are pinned down against an adversary fighting with military precision. Civilians run for their lives as the street transforms into an inescapable slaughterhouse of flying lead and shattered glass. How does a routine bank robbery escalate into the most violent shootout in modern law enforcement history? To understand this unprecedented level of destruction, we must rewind the clock. We must look beyond the bullet casings and examine the masterminds who orchestrated this chaos. Before the smoke choked the skyline of the city, there was only the quiet hum of perfection. This was not a street gang or a chaotic assembly of desperate junkies looking for a quick score. The individuals behind the triggers were apex predators in the criminal underworld, operating with chilling efficiency. They treated armed robbery not as a violent crime, but as a highly disciplined corporate enterprise. Their targets were never random convenience stores, but heavily fortified armored trucks and massive banking institutions. They moved like phantoms through the surveillance grids, leaving no forensic evidence and no loose ends. Every heist was a masterclass in risk management and aggressive tactical execution that left detectives chasing shadows. The authorities were facing ghosts armed with assault rifles and a terrifyingly high IQ. The true nature of this crew was violently illuminated during a meticulously planned armored car takedown. A massive tow truck smashed into the transport vehicle with the calculated force of a missile strike. Within seconds, the heavily armed crew breached the secure perimeter with shaped explosives and overwhelming firepower. It was a surgical strike, designed to extract millions in bearer bonds in under 3 minutes. They moved with the synchronized grace of a special operations unit navigating the chaotic crash site. Masks concealed their faces while their weapons remained steadily trained on the disoriented and terrified guards. There was no hesitation or unnecessary cruelty, but rather a cold and mechanical focus on the objective. Every movement was practiced, and every contingency was accounted for in their master plan. However, the perfect machinery of their operation suffered a catastrophic malfunction due to a single rogue element. A newly recruited enforcer broke protocol out of pure adrenaline and senseless aggression during the robbery. He pulled his trigger and instantly transformed a flawless heist into a brutal triple homicide. This split-second decision altered the trajectory of the entire crew and painted a massive target on their backs. The sheer audacity and brutality of the armored car hit sent shockwaves through the law enforcement community. The elite robbery homicide division immediately recognized the signature of a highly advanced tactical threat. The investigation was swiftly handed over to a legendary detective known for his obsessive pursuit of justice. The hunter had finally caught the scent of the most elusive prey in the entire city. What began as an investigation rapidly mutated into an intense psychological warfare between two brilliant minds. The streets of Los Angeles became a massive chessboard, where every move was monitored and countered. The police deployed massive surveillance nets trying to anticipate the next strike of this phantom crew. Yet the masterminds remained unfazed and methodically planned their ultimate retirement score right under the noses of the police. The tension hung in the smoggy air like a tightly coiled spring waiting to violently snap. The criminals knew they were being watched, but their absolute confidence in their superior intellect pushed them forward. They believed they could outsmart the entire law enforcement apparatus of the sprawling metropolis. It was a deadly game of brinkmanship that would inevitably lead back to the blood-soaked streets. This impending collision course was destined to forever alter the landscape of modern tactical policing. The stage was set for an apocalyptic confrontation that would blur the lines between good and evil. We are about to witness the anatomy of a disaster, crafted by men who feared absolutely nothing. The countdown to the most explosive bank heist in history had officially begun its final deadly ticking. To comprehend the gravity of the impending collision, we must delve into the minds of the architects. At the helm of the criminal enterprise stood a master thief, operating with absolute emotional detachment. He lived by a chilling philosophy demanding he walk away from everything in 30 seconds if he felt the heat. This was not merely a rule, but a draconian religion ensuring his continued survival and freedom. His origins trace back to the cold steel bars of maximum security federal penitentiaries. Prison taught him the ultimate value of time and the fatal cost of human attachment. He owned nothing. He could not abandon and cultivated a life devoid of ordinary domestic entanglement. This ascetic lifestyle transformed him into an untouchable phantom, completely dedicated to the perfection of his illicit craft. Standing directly in his path was an adversary driven by an entirely different kind of obsession. The lead homicide detective was a predator in a cheap suit hunting monsters in the concrete jungle. His mind was a chaotic archive of crime scenes and shattered lives, constantly analyzing the darkest corners of human nature. He did not simply work cases, but allowed them to entirely consume his waking existence. This relentless pursuit of justice extracted a devastating toll on his personal reality. His marriages crumbled under the weight of his undeniable addiction to the adrenaline of the hunt. While he championed the cause of the innocent, he remained an absent ghost in his own home. The badge he wore was both a symbol of honor and a heavy cross that crucified his domestic happiness. Despite standing on opposite sides of the law, these two brilliant men mirrored each other perfectly. They were isolated titans operating at the absolute pinnacle of their respective dangerous professions. Neither man knew how to exist in the mundane reality of normal society. They were creatures of the night, fueled by the high-stakes game of outsmarting an equally capable opponent. Their parallel lives eventually intersected in a moment of unprecedented cinematic tension. In a stark diner bathed in harsh neon light, the hunter and the prey sat across from one another. Stripped of their weapons and crews, they engaged in a psychological duel of mutual respect. It was a rare glimpse into the souls of two warriors, acknowledging their shared tragic destiny. They exchanged quiet threats disguised as philosophical observations over cups of bitter coffee. The detective promised to pull the trigger if the thief forced his hand to protect innocent lives. The criminal responded with equal icy resolve, stating he would not hesitate to eliminate anyone blocking his escape. The underlying truth was a profound mutual admiration forged in the fires of their deadly obsession. This profound encounter solidified the inevitable tragedy that was bound to unfold on the city streets. Both men understood the lethal trajectory of their chosen paths, yet neither possessed the capability to alter course. The thief could not abandon his monumental final score, just as the detective could not abandon the chase. They were locked in a fatal orbit destined to destroy one another in the end. For the mastermind, the upcoming operation represented the ultimate culmination of a lifetime of crime. It was a massive financial payday that would finally secure his permanent escape to a tropical paradise. He meticulously studied architectural blueprints and security patrol schedules to eliminate every conceivable variable. His supreme confidence blinded him to the relentless determination of the detective, shadowing his every move. Simultaneously, the detective mobilized an unprecedented task force to tighten the noose around the criminal crew. He utilized advanced electronic surveillance and aggressive physical tailing techniques to map their behavioral patterns. He was searching for a single moment of weakness or a slight deviation from their disciplined routine. He knew that even the most meticulous masterminds eventually succumbed to the immense pressure of the hunt. The chessboard was now fully set, and the grandmasters had taken their final positions in the shadows. The city of Los Angeles remained blissfully unaware of the storm gathering within its towering financial district. The quiet phase of the investigation was rapidly concluding, as the criminals finalized their audacious logistical preparations. The illusion of safety was about to be violently shattered by the execution of a flawless master plan. The target was an imposing financial fortress located in the busiest commercial district of the city. This particular bank branch processed massive volumes of raw currency on a daily basis. It boasted an elaborate security matrix deemed completely impenetrable by conventional law enforcement agencies. For the mastermind, this formidable challenge was precisely what made the monumental score so incredibly appealing. The prize was a staggering $12 million in untraceable, physical cash waiting in the main vault. Obtaining this monumental sum required a plan so precise it resembled a synchronized ballet of tactical maneuvers. The crew spent weeks conducting aggressive counter-surveillance to map the absolute blind spots of the building. They timed the exact response rate of local police cruisers down to the very last fraction of a second. Their primary hurdle was a complex network of silent alarms and digital motion sensors guarding the entrance. The crew did not plan to break the system, but rather to seamlessly bypass its digital logic. They procured detailed architectural blueprints through a vast underground network of illicit connections. This allowed them to identify a crucial vulnerability in the telecommunications wiring hidden beneath the bustling city pavement. Hours before the hit, a specialized technician tapped directly into the external alarm cables of the bank. By overriding the external communication lines, they effectively blinded the central security monitoring station without triggering suspicion. The bank appeared completely secure on the digital monitors, while practically standing totally defenseless in reality. It was a terrifying demonstration of how raw criminal intellect could dismantle millions of dollars of security infrastructure. The execution phase commenced precisely at the busiest hour of the sunny Los Angeles morning. The crew strode through the main glass doors, blending perfectly into the sea of corporate suits and ties. Beneath their tailored clothing, they carried high-powered assault rifles hidden in large black duffel bags. They moved into their designated tactical positions with the chilling calmness of men simply commuting to a regular office job. Upon the designated signal, the quiet banking floor instantly transformed into a terrifying hostage situation. The mastermind commanded absolute authority over the terrified crowd with a booming voice and a raised assault rifle. They did not resort to random violence, but utilized overwhelming psychological dominance to freeze everyone in place. Every customer and employee hit the marble floor, terrified by the military precision of the masked invaders. While the perimeter was violently secured, the vault extraction team moved efficiently toward the primary objective. They immediately located the branch manager who held the crucial electronic access codes. With cold precision, they forced him to bypass the complex time locks and heavily fortified steel doors. There was no hesitation or wasted movement as they stepped into the massive room filled with towering stacks of physical currency. Inside the vault, the extraction process was executed with a ruthless and mechanical velocity. The thieves completely ignored the small denominations and deliberately bypassed the explosive die packs hidden within the stacks. They only loaded the high-value bundles into their massive canvas bags with incredible speed. Every single second was meticulously counted in their minds to ensure they remained within their narrow window of absolute safety. Outside the bank, their dedicated getaway driver idled a powerful vehicle perfectly positioned for a rapid exfiltration. The escape route had been driven dozens of times to calculate traffic patterns and avoid potential choke points. They planned to seamlessly switch vehicles in a subterranean parking garage, effectively vanishing from the police radar. The entire operation was designed to conclude before the first patrol car even received the emergency dispatch. As the heavy bags of cash were slung over their shoulders, the crew prepared for their tactical exit. They had successfully infiltrated an impenetrable fortress and secured the largest cash haul in the history of the city. The perfect crime was unfolding exactly according to the meticulous architectural blueprint of the brilliant mastermind. They believed they had won the ultimate chess match against the entire law enforcement establishment. The illusion of absolute control is a dangerous narcotic for any criminal enterprise. No matter how meticulously a master plan is constructed, it remains entirely vulnerable to the unpredictable nature of human emotion. The flawless execution inside the bank vault was a monumental triumph of tactical engineering. Yet the seeds of their ultimate destruction had already been sown by a bitter betrayal, lurking completely outside their immediate peripheral vision. The catastrophic flaw did not originate from a miscalculated security protocol or a failed electronic bypass. It stemmed from the rogue enforcer who had recklessly jeopardized their previous armored car operation. Humiliated and violently cast out by the mastermind, this volatile individual sought a petty and devastating revenge. He possessed just enough fragmented knowledge about the final massive score to become a lethal weapon in the hands of the authorities. Acting as a cowardly informant, he leaked a crucial operational detail to the intensely watchful detective. The police did not know the exact target, but they received a solid tip regarding the specific geographical sector. This microscopic breadcrumb was all the brilliant law enforcement strategist needed to spring his massive trap. The detective instantly mobilized his heavily armed task force and ordered them to swarm the sprawling downtown financial district. Inside the bank, the thieves maintained their absolute discipline, completely unaware of the rapidly tightening noose. They carried the heavy canvas bags packed with $12 million toward the main glass doors. The mastermind checked his chronometer, feeling a profound sense of ultimate victory coursing through his veins. They had completed the impossible extraction and were only mere footsteps away from permanently vanishing into the vast concrete jungle. However, their victorious exit was abruptly halted by the piercing wail of police sirens tearing through the dense city air. The detective and his heavily armed tactical unit had converged on the bank mere seconds before the planned exfiltration. The getaway driver panicked at the sight of approaching patrol cruisers and desperately attempted to warn the crew. The meticulously calculated window of absolute safety had violently slammed completely shut. As the first thief stepped onto the sunlit pavement, he instantly spotted the relentless detective closing the distance. The ultimate chess match between the two brilliant adversaries had finally transitioned from the shadows into the harsh daylight. There was no opportunity for negotiation, and absolutely no chance for a quiet surrender. The thief raised his powerful automatic weapon and unleashed a deafening torrent of suppressive fire upon the approaching officers. The street instantaneously transformed into an apocalyptic war zone, echoing with the terrifying roar of military-grade munitions. The robbers possessed overwhelming fire superiority, utilizing armor, piercing rounds that effortlessly shredded standard police vehicles. Outgunned and severely outmaneuvered, the law enforcement officers desperately scrambled for cover behind their rapidly disintegrating cars. The downtown commercial district became a lethal arena of shattered glass and screaming civilians caught in the deadly crossfire. The mastermind maintained his chilling tactical composure amidst the swirling storm of chaos and extreme violence. He directed his heavily armed crew to establish a moving perimeter of suppressive fire to carve an escape path. They moved with terrifying military precision, bounded by mutual trust and an absolute refusal to return to federal prison. Every single bullet fired was a desperate declaration of their unwavering commitment to ultimate freedom or absolute death. Despite their superior firepower, the sheer numerical advantage of the responding police forces began to turn the bloody tide. The relentless detective boldly navigated through the lethal barrage of bullets, continuously pushing his men forward. The fatal flaw of the criminal master plan had birthed an inescapable nightmare of lead and urban destruction. The glorious heist had officially devolved into a desperate fight for pure survival on the unforgiving asphalt of Los Angeles. The deafening roar of the street battle eventually fractured the criminal crew permanently. One lay dead on the asphalt, while another suffered a critical gunshot wound during the frantic retreat. The mastermind managed to break through the massive police perimeter using a stolen grocery vehicle. He was bleeding and exhausted, but miraculously free, with a substantial portion of the stolen money securely in his possession. A clear path to a private jet and absolute freedom awaited him on the edge of the city. He had the money and the perfect escape route, ready to execute without any further complications. Yet the cold philosophy that had kept him alive for decades suddenly completely failed him. The burning desire to execute the cowardly informant who betrayed his crew violently overshadowed his strictly disciplined instinct for survival. He detoured from his secure escape route to hunt down the traitor hiding in a heavily guarded hotel. Moving with the silent efficiency of a seasoned assassin, he infiltrated the building and exacted his brutal vengeance. He eliminated the rogue element permanently, ensuring that betrayal within his ranks did not go unpunished. However, this fatal detour consumed precious minutes and illuminated his exact position to the relentlessly pursuing detective. The final act of this epic tragedy unfolded on the desolate runways of the international airport. The mastermind sprinted towards the shadows of the massive aviation infrastructure, desperately trying to vanish into the darkness. Right behind him, the obsessive detective abandoned his vehicle and pursued his ultimate prey on foot. The flashing strobe lights of descending commercial airliners illuminated the sprawling tarmac, creating a surreal and terrifying modern gladiatorial arena. This was no longer a massive tactical police operation involving hundreds of heavily armed uniformed officers. It had distilled into a primal hunt between two solitary men who fundamentally understood each other. They navigated through the towering landing gears and massive jet engines, clutching their weapons in the deafening noise. Every shadow offered a potential ambush point, and every sudden movement could instantly trigger a fatal exchange of gunfire. The roar of the massive jet engines created a disorienting sensory deprivation chamber on the open runway. Both men relied entirely on their primal instincts and decades of lethal experience to survive the terrifying ordeal. They stalked each other, with the terrifying patience of apex predators circling in the vast industrial darkness. The mastermind utilized the massive landing lights of approaching aircraft to obscure his movements and gain a tactical advantage. The fatal climax arrived abruptly when a massive commercial jet passed directly over their heads. The blinding floodlights momentarily washed over the tarmac, casting long, terrifying shadows across the concrete surface. The detective noticed a slight shift in the darkness and instinctively raised his weapon towards the movement. The mastermind stepped out to fire, but the sudden illumination betrayed his precise location just a fraction of a second too early. 3 deafening shots echoed through the roaring engine noise, tearing through the chest of the master thief. The brilliant criminal architect stumbled backwards as the immense physical shock destroyed his bodily functions. He collapsed onto the cold concrete runway, staring up at the flashing lights of the descending aircraft. The pursuit that had consumed both of their lives for months was finally over in a matter of violent seconds. The detective slowly approached his fallen adversary, keeping his weapon drawn, but lowering his aggressive posture. There was no triumphant celebration or sense of righteous victory in the heart of the law enforcement officer. He knelt beside the dying mastermind, acknowledging the profound tragedy of their inevitable and fatal collision. The thief reached out his hand and the detective grasped it firmly in a silent gesture of ultimate mutual respect. The spectacular violence of that day forever changed the entire tactical doctrine of American law enforcement. Police departments nationwide fundamentally realized they were critically outgunned by highly organized and heavily armed criminal enterprises. Standard patrol units were subsequently equipped with high-powered rifles to prevent another terrifying street slaughter. The city of Los Angeles would never forget the day its streets were transformed into a genuine military combat zone. Ultimately, this terrifying saga remains a monumental testament to the extreme lengths of human capability and obsession. It is a cinematic nightmare demonstrating what happens when an unstoppable force meets an absolutely immovable object. The legacy of the mastermind and the detective continues to haunt the historical archives of true crime. They were 2 sides of the exact same coin destined to destroy each other in the pursuit of absolute perfection.